This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Pendleton Whiskey, Bill Fick Ford, the WCRA, and Resistol. Born in the iconic American western town of Pendleton, Oregon, and taking its name from one of the most revered rodeos in the world, my absolute favorite rodeo, known for the grass, the Pendleton Roundup. Pendleton Whiskey is a modern celebration of a century-old tradition. Pendleton Whiskey is barrel-aged in American oak and cut with glacier-fed spring water from Oregon's Mount Hood. For an uncommonly smooth, rich taste and complex flavor, the Pendleton Whiskey brand honors a heritage that inspires us to live boldly, never lose sight of the values we believe in, and taste the moment, wherever we may be. The legacy of the American cowboy is forged in every single bottle. A taste of true Western tradition is always worth raising a glass to. Discover more at PendletonWhiskey.com. Oh, and Pendleton Whiskey is the official whiskey of Pro Rodeo and of the PBR. Pendleton Blended Canadian Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, Pendleton Distilleries, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Please drink responsibly. Bill Fick Ford, the #1 Super Duty dealer in the entire country, is still taking care of their customers. It's hard to get trucks right now, but there's some perks when you're the #1 Super Duty dealer in the country. You still got trucks. Go to BillFickFordHuntsville.com to get the no bull discounts that no one else is giving during this crazy time that we're living in. Bill Fick Ford is still the place to go. In fact, if you ask me, it's the only place to get a new Super Duty dealer today. Bill Fick Ford. Who wants to be Rodeo's next millionaire? It's time. That time again through the WCRA. You can win $1 million by nominating your rides or runs and earning points through the WCRA. Through the Triple Crown of Rodeo, the WCRA will award $1 million in cash prizes to any one athlete or collection of athletes who wins first place in any 3 consecutive WCRA major rodeos. $1 million is completely up for grabs. The Days of 47 Cowboy Games and Rodeo will be the second stop of the 2021 Triple Crown of Rodeo Series. The event will pay out over $560,000 and will be held July 20th through the 24th in Salt Lake City. Get this, there will be 0 entry fees, people. You heard me correctly. No entry fees. The only way to qualify for the Triple Crown of Rodeo event is by nominating your rides and runs with the WCRA. Use promo code GAUGE10 for 10% off your next nomination. Again, that promo code is GAUGE10 for 10% off your next nomination. To learn more, just visit WCRARodeo.com and learn how you can earn a spot at the Days of 47 Rodeo and possibly be Rodeo's next millionaire. What?
What sets Resistol apart is the legacy of the cowboys who wear the brand. These traditions are passed down from fathers to sons, from heroes to future champions. Since 1927, Resistol has been handcrafting the finest American-made cowboy hats. Generation after generation, we live it every day.
This is The Gauge with host Chance Conradu.
Are you freaking serious? It's Conrado. This is The Gauge. I am Chance Conrado. On this episode of the podcast, we've got Cowboy Channel's own Justin McKee. Justin has been announcing rodeos and doing TV in the sport of rodeo, PBR, you name it, for like way longer than I can remember really anything. He is absolutely awesome. He's got some great ideals on many, many things, and we have just good old conversation talking about the Cowboy Channel and, you know, Jesus and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. Check it out. Well, I'm glad you were able to get here. I think we could have probably had you halfway out of here by now if everyone was on time.
Okay. It was listed, scheduled on the calendar, and I had a tight schedule.
Well, that is not true. You definitely don't have a tight schedule. You're pretty open.
I'm currently in the middle of a move right now.
You just told me yesterday you got nothing going on. He did say that.
Yeah, and then I got that planned.
Well, Justin, I think it's there's a lot of really interesting things to talk about because, one, you've been in the industry for a long time in different capacities, and two, you have been a voice of the sport of rodeo broadcasting in many different areas, and I think what that adds as far as value is a lot because we can talk about a lot of different experiences that you've had, as well as the growth in the sport. And you've been a pastor and a rancher. And do you still do the pastor thing? Is that something you're currently doing? You probably don't have enough time to do it.
No, I'm not comfortable with even that title.
Really?
Even when I was doing it, no.
Okay, I think that's probably a really interesting title. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing. I love this podcast. I mean, I am a junkie and a fan and a follower, and I have enjoyed many hours of what you guys have done here. And for everybody that talks about how amazing the studio is, I finally get to see it. So this is kind of a big deal. I've been in some studios.
I'm excited you're here. Yeah.
I've been in some studios before. And I mean, from New York to LA, literally.
Yeah.
And this is cool. So I'm just thankful to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy you are here, and I'm really glad you like the studio. Yeah. It was a disaster when we got it. So
it's not now.
No, it isn't. Yeah. It was, the idea was to try to create like a warm, inviting place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a place that could turn really fun late at night, early in the morning.
It does. It does. And you know, people in rodeo and specific cowboys and things like that. And so that's why the bar is closer to the door.
So they don't tear up the expensive stuff.
Well, not even that. It's so that they can get the liquid courage to come speak on the microphone before they get over here. Not a problem you or I have. But.
Well, no, but it is a problem that affects us greatly.
Yes.
And, there has been many times that I wish we had a bar really close to an interview site for live TV covering Cowboys. Yeah,
I think that's one of the things that you see with like the people in our culture. Like you don't see that in football,
I know,
in baseball and basketball.
Or they hide it better. I don't know.
Or they hide it better, maybe, or maybe they're just more eccentric people.
Well, they are, but our lifestyle always has promoted being humble, being kind, and a few words and lots of action.
Yeah.
So it really goes against the grain to show some personality and jump in there and tell us how you really feel. I mean, feelings. That's not something that's not a word that we use in the cowboy vernacular very often.
No, it isn't.
Tell us about your feelings. So it certainly brings some obstacles to television and podcast.
Yeah, it does. And I think probably my favorite thing, and that's the whole reason that I wanted to do this, is because like I look at people in the industry that I admire so much, a lot of the competitors and people that I've looked up to. Trevor Brazil, one of those people. Joe Beaver, another one. I mean, which is him and I have great chemistry and can talk for hours. But when you get to peel back those layers of people like that, if you can, then you get something that's just wildly unique, right?
And it's so unique that when I see it or hear it, or both, when it's on television, I am not just excited, but I'm motivated to call somebody up. Cody Johnson is a steer wrestler from Oklahoma City. He was on last night, Colorado Springs. He made the fastest run. Amy Wilson interviewed him, and he got to telling the story about Maverick Harper. He's riding his horse, and Maverick's been in this wreck, and hey, Maverick, I'm taking care of your horse. And he told the story. He told a great story, and he articulated it very well, and he was excited, and he was enthusiastic, and then, I mean, he was emotional and caring for his traveling partner that, has gone through this horrific accident. And I looked, I don't know Tori, really, I don't have his phone number, but I looked him up on social media just so I could say, hey, thank you for being you. Thank you for expressing yourself. And to me, that was a star. J.J. Hampton the other day, her emotions was one of the greatest moments of my entire rodeo career, to see not only what she did, but how she expressed herself, and then to see the reaction of the crowd. I was able to look into maybe the future or the true potential of our sport when they can attach themselves to a Cody Ole that we are desperately missing right now. No offense to everybody else, but I mean, we got some rock stars that are great at what they do and pretty good in front of the camera, but I want to see that raw emotion. And I think we've been taught in the cowboy lifestyle to suppress that emotion. Don't let anybody see how you really feel. Be guarded all the time. And
well, and it's kind of just a cultural thing too. Like if you think about, we were talking about how much different the big city is and how awesome it actually is to be in close proximity to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I could ever live like in Heiko, for example, like you do, and obviously my sister does, because I need the atmosphere. And I mean, I grew up on a ranch. We all of us did, but I need the energy and the atmosphere. And like, it's one of the reasons that I realized that like I can't be a professional cowboy, and all of us have tried at one point, because that lack of like constant stimulus and energy, like when you're driving from Casper back to Calgary or something, just like I'm just thinking of like a long trip in the truck like that.
Right.
It takes it out of you. And I think that sucks some life out of people.
True.
That they do that.
No doubt.
And they go do their run, and then they're expected to be like, have this bombastic personality and all that. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons Cody O was that energetic.
Yeah.
But,
well, probably.
And it's just one of those personalities. But it's a lot to ask of people to do that. And one of the things that's shifting in the mindset of professional or cowboys and cowgirls is, well, no, you're actually professional athletes. So it kind of doesn't matter if you feel like it, you got to do it.
Got to do it. Yeah.
And that's because all the other sports are so more advanced, you know, half a century farther ahead as far as how big they are, the media, the way that they present things.
Yeah.
They get that more. But
They
we're
do.
making it. We're getting
We
it.
are. And I can't talk about this subject without pointing out Jacob Edler. He was he was one of the greatest moments of last year's NFR too. So yeah, it's coming. It's coming. We're taking baby steps. It's kind of like where we are in television. You know, the slogan right now at the Cowboy Channel, or has been for this year, is, hey, we're just taking baby steps. We're not even walking yet. And I think that's where rodeo is in general, which is horribly or wonderfully exciting.
I think it is hugely exciting.
Yeah.
And the more, and that's why we do this show the way we do. Like, we've had some people complain, like, well, why are you bringing non-rodeo people on? Well, because they have 1 million followers.
Yeah.
And it's enough of a tie to where, hey, if 10% of their followers are like, hey, I'm interested in this thing called rodeo, do you realize that's how you grow things? The small-mindedness drives me insane.
You know, here's something that I know you understand and I understand, but very few people in rodeo understand where our real audience is. It's in that crossover. It's in that crossover. The people that go to Houston to listen to the concert, that wear boots and jeans and buy a hat for that week, those are the people we need to go after. Not our and if we do that, here's the thing. Our hardcore fans are going to come along too.
Yeah, they're not going to leave because it's their culture.
We don't need to target our hardcore fans so much as let's go to the crossover crowd. I was talking to Jordan Weaver. I was on his podcast up in Oregon a couple of weeks ago. I know he's
love
been
Jordan.
Oh, he's my pastor.
Jordan is like, he's the ideal pastor.
He
for me.
is.
And I mean, I tell that to everybody. It's like, hey, because people will ask me, because I'll critique religion a lot.
As do I.
Yeah, and and sometimes you catch some flack for that because dogma's dogma. But the way that he approaches things, the way he speaks, like his form of ministry, I think it's one of the best ways to do it in a modern society.
I do too, and I like. Well, I like a lot of things about that. I don't mean to jump off subject, but anyway, no. I was with him last week out in Powell Butte at Shiloh Ranch Church, which is another great podcast, and that's his podcast.
Yep.
And we were doing one last week, and he asked me, he said, "Who do you think is going to be the next John Wayne that's going to bring those people over into the Western lifestyle?" And I said, "Cody Johnson." Yeah. And I mean, look what he can do when he can bring a crowd in like he does everywhere. That crowd, that Cody Johnson crowd that's wearing the boots and they appreciate the lifestyle, but they just don't know much about it. Those are the ones we need to go after.
Well, there's so many of them, right?
Oh,
and we're taking some like really big steps to get some really crazy guests on here. But
kudos to you. I mean, good job.
It's not easy. It's not easy to get into Hollywood and try to grab people. We're learning how difficult it is because there's so many barriers. And some of these people really want to do stuff like this, but they've got people who block them from being accessible.
It's the little things sometimes that people don't understand. And I am going to completely throw Reba McEntire under the bus right here. And I don't mean to be mean in doing it because I respect her and the family and very much. But this week, I've been working on Cody Johnson's feature. Yeah. I went with him and Kobe Lovell, and we chased some wild cows, and we crossed some rivers, and we swam our horses here the other day. And, I mean, we roped some bulls, and we did some wild stuff. And
ranchy stuff.
I mean, total cowboy day. And anyway, I shot Colby Lovell's feature about him and Cody Neesmith, and then so I had Cody Johnson. Got to do a story on Cody Johnson, right?
Yeah.
And so I did. It went great. Saving it. We've been saving it. This has been over 2 months ago, 3 months ago maybe. But I've been saving it for Cheyenne, which is next week. And he's doing a concert there. So we're building the Cody Johnson feature story for the tailgate party at Cheyenne which is next Friday. I don't know when this is going to air, but the first Friday of Cheyenne. And I really wanted to get Reba because I close to the family. Susie, her sister, and I roped with Paik for many years, and he's one of my all-time favorite people. And our families, my wife's family and her family, were just so tight and go back generations of steer roping families.
Yeah.
And I even did her dad's funeral. So been around Reba. So I wanted to use my connections to get Reba to give me some lines for Cody Johnson's feature. And I couldn't get her because she's not going to do glam this week. I need the feature this week, and she's not going to put makeup on this week. It's a big deal.
That's interesting.
It's a huge, I mean, we're talking about hours and hours and hours, and maybe, I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. That's at that level. So you talk about how hard it is to get guests. I'm sorry, I just had to share that.
No.
That was a very recent story about how hard it is to get an A-list type of a guest.
Well, it's
it
really
might be
difficult.
makeup.
Yeah, I mean, there's poor Riley, like the amount of like high level non-rodeo people that she talks with, and you always get like, oh, I've heard it, like, absolutely, I know what that is, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you run into all these barriers, like, well, yeah, oh, sorry, I can't just do it. You have to talk to the manager, and then, the manager comes in and just,
right,
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know
Or you got to give me this and pay for that.
Yeah, and we're just like, no thanks.
It's not worth
if
it.
somebody asks, like,
Yeah.
like, no offense to you guys, I don't care how A-list you are, or how A-list your manager thinks you are, or whatever it is. Like, as soon as we have to pay somebody to be a guest, like, there's nothing genuine about that. It's a transaction. We don't want it.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. Same way.
Yep.
Cowboy Channel too.
Yeah, because there's no authenticity there.
Exactly. Good for you. I like how you said that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as soon
I
as
may have to play that card.
Well, it's yours.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. I mean, because it's happened before. I mean, and it's never the person who asked. Right. Generally, they're interested in doing anything and being accessible. A lot of people are. Maybe Reba McEntire. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but maybe that's the kind of power we all wish we had. We'd be like, hey, I'm not putting makeup on this week, so sorry, I can't help you. Yeah. Like, that's some freedom.
Well, I'm not being judgmental. I'm sure she has her reasons, and it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's been doing stuff for however long, so that's cool.
She deserves a break. She wants to take the week off. She can take the week off.
Yeah, so. I don't think it's a bad thing from her standpoint, but man, this industry really could use some of those powerhouses to bring.
Well, it'd be nice, and so then I called Randy Bernard, and I said, "You think Garth would do that next week?" So and we don't have. It's going to be a great feature anyway.
Yeah,
which is what I love to do. I love telling stories. Yeah, love to. And here's the thing. And you can relate to this because a lot of these stories have not been told. No. Some of our biggest stars. So Carly Peterson and I, we co-produced Pro Rodeo Tonight, which is a feature-driven show. Yeah. And so I come up with a lot of the stories. She makes it happen. And as we are doing these stories, the Oak Berries and the Larry Mahans. Well, we haven't even done Larry Mahans, for crying out loud. That should have been the first one. I haven't done Ty Murray's yet, but we've been gathering. Joe Beaver, we've done a lot of these legends stories over this last 6 months. And it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my entire career, is to have a vision of what this looks like, and then get the videos and get the pictures, and then get with an editor and watch them put that together and say, no, we need to flip-flop this. We need to put this picture here, and we need to find a picture that goes with what he's talking about here. And of all the things I've ever done, that is the most fulfilling, rewarding thing professionally. Yeah. It's so fun to build those features.
And I love to hear that, right? Because what's happening, like with you, and Carly's a great producer. She does. You have so many great people over there at the Cowboy Channel. Carly, Janie, Amy,
Steve
Sarah,
Kenyon, Jeff Metters,
Jeff, everybody. I mean, all those people are amazing, and they're so passionate about what they're doing.
Yes.
And what it's doing is it's creating this amazing depth, right? Because with rodeo, you get stuck. Another dogma thing is the only way to be somebody in rodeo, be impactful, is to go for a gold buckle. Right? And
that always has been. That's
well, it always
changing.
has been. It is changing, right? And
it's changing.
And that's every one of us, you know, me included, has thought, like, I want to do something impactful in this industry, in this world. But it's not going to be
cultural importance somehow.
Yeah.
And it takes a really specific person to want to do that. And now look at your job, look at Carly's job, look at all these different people's, what I do, what Joe B now does, what everybody does. Like, it's really important. There's all this depth, and it's just creating this ecosystem of growth and diversity and just all these wonderful things for people to strive to be.
There's never been a better opportunity for this culture to grow like we have right now. It is just enormous. And here's something that I want to pick up on. I want to kind of go back and talk about that crossover crowd, because there's a lot of people in the rodeo business that don't understand that as we are selling out rodeos right and left. I mean, every night almost is a sellout this year, right?
Yep.
Especially the big rodeo. Well, everything, small rodeos, medium, everything. But as you take a look at a Reno, and it was sold out almost every night, and those people are having a great time. Does our industry know how many or what the percentage is of rodeo fans out of the 9,000 that were there each night?
Oh,
I think I know.
What do you think? Yeah.
Well, I think the percentage of rodeo fans at the Reno Rodeo is 5%.
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah, and a good 2% of that is just family
Casual.
and drivers and things like that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
With.
Yeah.
So
that are involved.
That are actually involved in getting from point A to point B, or a family or something, and then the rest, it might as well be a carnival to them.
They're a fan of the Reno Rodeo. They're a fan of the Ellensburg Rodeo. Now, I will give you one exception: San Angelo, Texas. It's reversed. I would say that it's more like a 95% of those people.
There's some pockets like that just based around the people who actually live in those areas, right?
Exactly.
Demographics determine all.
Yep.
Houston is a massive city.
Sure.
Fort Worth, big city. Austin, big city.
Yep.
I mean, look at Calgary's great example.
Great example.
It is a rodeo town, but there's a lot that goes on in the area that has nothing to do with rodeo. I mean, there's a reason there's so many activists out there every single year trying to shut down rodeo, because I mean, Canada doesn't love that sort of thing. They're pretty darn left.
Yeah, maybe that's changing. I hope it's changing. It's changing, at least in the Western world here.
Yeah, I don't know if you can even call Canada the Western world anymore. They're turned so European.
Surely Alberta. Surely you can for a while longer in Alberta. But
yeah.
But all that said is, number one, we have got to know who our real audience is, and it's that 95%. It's that crossover. It's that Cody Johnson crowd, and that's who we really need to target. But we got to realize they're not rodeo fans.
Yeah.
They don't know anybody from anybody.
Yeah, and they don't care necessarily. So how do you make them care?
Well, introduce them to some personalities. Let them
tell
engage.
Stories.
Yeah, tell some stories. And
look at some of the most impactful people. Your Fallon Taylors and your things like that.
I know.
Some of the PBR people.
There you go.
Fallon Taylor is the poster child for how you grow something.
Do you realize what we could do with 10 of those? Right. All I need is 10.
You just need one in every event.
I know.
That's all.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all you need. People with that type of vision and everything. But it's really tough. It's a tough ask, because I don't know. Because she certainly didn't do that while she was chasing the gold buckle.
You can't. And this is something else people don't realize. They don't realize the commitment that it takes. And I've been the worst. I mean, I've been the biggest critic of people that have the platform, that are in the race for the gold buckle, and they're not doing what Fallon's doing. But then I have seen the sacrifice and the commitment and the focus. The focus is the word that will keep them from doing that. Now, I don't know, how do we get there? I haven't found the answer to how do we get them to cross over and do both. I think we're going to get there. And I think this is what we're doing here, planting seeds and getting them thinking about it.
This is certainly a way, right? Because what's nice about this is, like, you're not going to pull, I'm going to use Haley because she was the top money earner during Cowboy Christmas with the barrel racing, but you're not going to get her from July 2nd to July 14th.
No, if she's got a spare moment, she's going to catch a nap.
Well, exactly. You're not going to talk to her. And even if you do, you're not going to get much, because she's got like 6 hours of sleep total.
Yeah, for the week maybe.
And so you have to do it at different times. You have to find these pockets where people are energized, and you bring them in
here or wherever, and if you know them, you at least have some like higher level communication skills, maybe, which is another thing that's very difficult to find.
Yeah.
Then you can extract some pretty fantastic things, and then it gets to exist out there in time.
Yep, I agree. And what a great personality. I'll tell you somebody else I like, and he's on the team here, Kyle Irwin.
He's funny.
He's a rock star.
He's funny,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to name names, but I'm going to.
Yeah, well, and those are the people that, frankly, the Cowboy Channel needs to call and be like, "Hey, do you want to host something? You want to co-host something? You want to? You want to commentate?" Because we tried some stuff like that. We did little features during the NFR where we brought in like Ivy. Hey, let's do a midway recap of the barrels. Yeah, we did that, and then hey, Bonner Bolton is one of my good buddies, so I said, "Hey, Bonner, you want to come do a mid recap of the bull riding?" And then we did it with team roping, and then we did it with Tyler Pearson because he was hazing for everybody for the bulldogging. And, like there's these little things, and then you let people talk about stuff they're passionate about. And
that's right.
Perfect.
At the right time. It's tough for this 90-day window, this 100 days.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
It is, but you guys are figuring it out. I mean.
Well, that's why we got to be on location, and that's what we figured out in Reno. You know, a lot of that stuff we were going to do originally from the studio, and do it remotely, and just in one of the girls out there to do interviews, and then we found out that when we went to Reno that we were right there, we were handy. I mean, they could literally be in and out in 10 minutes, and the location of our stage is very important, so they can physically get in and out, and get back to work. But we also found out something very interesting in Reno, and not that it's earth-shattering or breaking news, but we got to know the committee. Yeah. And when the committee saw our passion and realized what we were trying to do, we weren't just telling the story of the competition. We want to make these places a destination. I really want to. We painted a picture of Reno top to bottom, and when the committee saw that, they brought resources and help and gave us people and locations to shoot, and it was a huge turning point for us. And I know we're kind of shifting gears away from what we were talking about, but this is the next. This parallels what we were talking about in terms of our rodeo contestants being celebrities and coming on camera. You know, the rodeo committees are a big story too, and not just the committee itself, but the town. And we have so many towns that are great destinations. I mean, we went last night from Colorado Springs with Pikes Peak literally in the background of all of our shots, to Sheridan, which literally had the Bighorn Mountains.
Sheridan's so beautiful this time of year.
I mean, and we could just go on and on.
That.
We were in Nephi and Casper, and all this was on the app. Which we need to maybe talk about. But anyway, I'm excited to make these larger than life, make these locations larger than life. I hope that within a couple of years, we can do a good enough job telling the stories of these communities and how amazing they are outside of the rodeo, that people in the community have to buy like a season ticket way in advance, because the people from the East Coast are coming to Casper. Yeah. They're going to flood Sheridan and Reno in the coming years.
I mean, they do at the NFR. So there's nothing to say that they wouldn't, like, if it was presented and accessible in a certain way. I mean, the problem with some of those places is like you can't fly into them very well.
True.
Like Sheridan, there's not a good airport.
That's true. Which, can be part of the adventure. Yeah. Which is very much a part of our picture.
Well, and if you go to any of those really tiny airports, it's always an adventure. But
and those little planes.
Those little bitty.
I've got some of those stories.
Puddle jumping planes, and like you fly into like a Gillette, Wyoming to try to get up that might be the closest little airport, but or
right.
Wherever.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I don't think you can fly into Sheridan.
No, yeah, not unless you
not commercial.
Got a charter. But I don't know. It's just really fun and interesting because I don't really leave like my little bubble too often unless we go to do something remotely or for other things. And you get like the Cowboy Channel app. You were mentioning that. Yeah. That is the only possible way that I know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Because we don't watch TV anymore. I don't watch TV.
I don't have TV.
Yeah.
I've got apps.
Yep,
bunch of different apps. And the Cowboy Channel Plus app is the most advanced piece of hardware that this industry has ever seen.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I believe it. And I'm very critical on the rodeo business not simplifying things enough for this crossover crowd to understand it immediately.
Yeah.
In order to get them, it cannot be confusing. You know, everybody knows I'm against the average, not as a contestant, but as a producer, I'm against the average, because if you need a calculator to keep up with the championship round, I have no chance at that crossover crowd. I have no chance of growing the sport.
No.
And so I'm for simplification. I want it to be so easy that in a glance that I can take 10 seconds and get somebody started. And that's what we have with this app. David Guinan is, I mean, he's a Yankee from the Northeast. That's what he claims to be.
Yeah.
And he is. He doesn't know rodeo. He's not from the West, and certainly not a cowboy, but man, he has just done an amazing job laying that thing out. The first time I open it up, and you know, I struggle with technology and apps and downloading anything, and bam, I could do everything the first time.
Well, I mean, the Cowboy Channel Plus app functions as good as any of the top applications out there for TV or anything like that. I mean, it really does, because I was such a skeptic.
I know, me too.
I was against the Cowboy Channel taking over the NFR. It's like,
I know,
that doesn't even make sense. Like, we're going to lose so many viewers. And I'm literally on record saying that. And I'm like,
I know.
I completely changed my stance, though. Public was like, nope, absolutely wrong.
Do you realize what the numbers were?
Yes.
I mean, we're talking...
Yeah, 49 million, or what was it?
Well,
it was a huge number, like over the 10 days, right?
It was, by the time it got done replaying so many more times, I think it ended up being quadruple.
Yeah.
The audience of what we've had at the NFR.
Sports. Yeah. No, but I mean, I changed my stance way before the NFR. But yes, I absolutely, because just the viewership that we got from the 10 days of NFR was high seven figures on a podcast.
Nice. Yeah.
And then what you guys got, what I was told you guys got, and then we had our little partnership with you guys where our stuff was playing over the NFR coverage. It was great. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. The amount of support. And I don't know if anybody in the industry outside of your guys' your team, and then people who actually really care. Like, I like to look into that and ask, people what was going on. And it's one of the most unbelievable feats that a small budgeted organization could pull off.
So here's the newest numbers I think you'll find interesting. The Calgary numbers have been off the charts.
Yeah.
And now this is just me, and I could be getting my numbers wrong, but I don't think so.
That plus or minus.
Yeah.
That's the term you can use.
Give me a little room for error here, but I think our Calgary audience is as big as our NFR audience was before Cowboy Channel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal.
I mean, it's a huge deal.
That's pretty big. Pretty big.
Guys, let me remind you how much we love Pendleton Whiskey and how much you'll love it too. Here's the thing with Pendleton. It's not on every single shelf in the entire country. Sometimes you go to those small towns where the small rodeos are and you can't find Pendleton. That's where drizzly.com comes into play. Satisfy your inner cowboy by purchasing your bottle of Pendleton whiskey online. Buy it online at drizzly.com. Put it in the trailer. Pendleton Blended Canadian Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Pendleton Distilleries, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And please drink responsibly.
So, I mean, there's so much credit that has to be given to the people like yourself, the everybody involved for the sleepless nights, frankly, for this type of work, far less pay than the average person gets. And so what everybody needs to understand when you're looking at it, if you really, really think about the value that you're getting, like, you need to have some appreciation, because this is 80% passion project for you guys involved. More than anything.
It's passion. It's pure passion, and I don't mind admitting it. It's I mean, it's a good gig too. I mean, but I worked 20 years out on the road to buy land and build a ranch that I could go home and work. I wanted to just go home and be a cowboy and just make a living with cattle, which I had been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I thought that was my passion. I thought, man, the rodeo thing is great and it's a good gig, and the PBR was very good to me, and I was able to put a ranch together, but I sold it. I moved to Texas. I can't go to sleep at night because I can't wait to get going the next day to tell this next story or build this next feature or go to the next event or even get to the studio. I never imagined that I would be able to go to the same location every day. And I mean, I like to work. I'm going to be working no matter what. So working 14, 16 hours a day, That's what I've done my whole life.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to do that no matter what. But we do it here, and then you get to see it. And then you get out on the road, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Man, I watched this, and man, that was a great story, and we love the Cowboy Channel." And you hear people how much they appreciate what we're doing, and thank you for your kind words. That means a lot, but that just builds that passion, and everybody's got it there. Everybody,
they do.
Everybody,
you see it and some of those girls are worked to the bone, and they're happy. They're caffeinated.
Janie
and they're
Johnson,
going. Janie's not a normal person.
She's not normal. She is happy all the dadgum time. I mean, what you see is what you get. I mean, she's
so talented.
She's talented, and I enjoy life better by being around her and watching her. At Reno, we just had we had a huge time. We had a team, and we went out together, and we ate together, and we worked together, and we had a large time, and of course, Amy, she gets more beautiful and better. She's been doing this forever, and she just continues to grow. And Steve Kenyon, do you ever watch Game Day? ESPN Game Day.
Sometimes, yeah.
Football season.
Yeah, I like to watch those guys to see how they operate. Not
I do too.
Because I care about football anymore.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I loved watching Game Day for years and years and years. Now I don't watch it at all because of political reasons. But Bear, the guy that's kind of off camera, but they bring him on and they have a question about stats and stuff, and that's Steve Kenyon. I don't know how many times we've all been in the office when we're getting ready for a show or Western Sports Roundup, and somebody says, "How many times has Cody DeMoss been in the NFR?" And Steve Kenyon's like 13 times, or he just every time, and it happens almost daily.
Yeah, he's very smart, and
such a smart guy.
I love Steve Kenyon's voice. He's got a great voice.
It's very unique.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
Because Steve Kenyon's voice you have a Western voice. A lot of people, Steve Kenyon doesn't.
Oh, right.
He's got a different voice, and it just adds a layer or a different element that kind of can engage you a little bit, right?
Yeah, and
Amy's got her voice. Everybody's got their voice.
Everybody.
There's a cowboy voice, right? Steve Kenyon has a different, analytical sounding.
He does.
Almost point, I mean this in a wonderful way, like a Poindexter voice.
No doubt.
And so it makes total sense that he's the facts guy.
He is. And I mean, that guy, he ain't afraid to work. Nobody is.
That's the culture.
So, anyway, it's been a real labor of love. Been rewarding. I'll tell you something that's happened. Out on the road, the feedback that I get that's been powerful. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of elderly people that tell us that they would have never gotten through COVID without the Cowboy Channel.
Yeah. I guess a big demographic of yours is the 40 plus.
Well, it is, and hopefully we can change that. Hopefully you're doing a great job in changing that in the future. But I had a guy in his 90s tell me that, and I've heard this maybe hundreds of times.
I'm sure.
Hundreds of times. Anytime I'm out, I'll hear dozens of people say, "Man, we wouldn't have survived COVID without the Cowboy Channel." Because they're done watching sports, they're done watching the news. There's nothing else good on TV. And so, which is interesting how this is all laid out so perfectly for Western sports. But I had a guy in his 90s say that to me. Say, I wouldn't have survived COVID without the Cowboy Channel. And I said, "Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say." And he grabbed me by the shoulder and he said, "No, you don't understand. I would not have survived if it wasn't for the Cowboy Channel." I'm like, "Oh." And I had another guy do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, I mean, it was so depressing and so serious, and they have so few family or friends. We're their family. Or a lot of people out there.
I think a lot of us take for granted or don't realize how wildly social human beings are, and that they require some form of companionship to exist.
Exactly.
It's always been that way throughout history.
Sure.
I'm a philosophy and history junkie.
Yeah, me too.
Right. I get so deep into so many things that have nothing to do with rodeo, and then I bring it back to rodeo.
Right.
That you look at that man, that 90-year-old man. His wife's been dead for who knows how long.
Yeah.
His children Some of them might have passed away, their grandparents themselves. And you know how it is, right? Like, and we all fall victim to this. Like, you get into your careers and your things, like, you're not really going to see your grandparents very often.
Exactly.
You know, no one's looking out for those people.
They've outlived all their friends.
They're by themselves. You get caught in this loop of doing the same thing and having nothing to do. And you start wondering, like, why are you living?
Exactly.
And so for someone to talk to you and say that, like, that is a really impactful statement. I don't know if some people
it's huge
understand that, unless it's happened to you, unless you have someone come up to you and be like, no, something you did made a huge difference in my life.
It changed my life. And Jordan Weaver and I got into this in the podcast out there last week. He asked me about my vision. He said, so where do you see the Cowboy Channel going? And I said, I'm not in charge, but this is way bigger than Western sports. This is way bigger. I mean, as I said a moment ago, it's amazing how everything is kind of fallen into place. And here we are with more potential than we've ever had.
Absolutely.
And, man, America needs us. I mean, America needs our lifestyle, our culture, our network. They need it. They're craving it. There's people that have never even heard of rodeo that there's an inner cowboy in everybody.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not about the boots. It's not about the hats. Look at some of the most impactful people going right now. Look at governor of South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Like, and even just look at some of these figures and how the cowboy way is it's been pushed out of everything. But now it's just inserted itself back in. You've got celebrities wearing boots and hats and these different people getting involved. Like, we had the Compton Cowboys stuff going on in here. Look at that.
I know.
It's insane that even exists.
I know.
Tell me that this isn't one of the most powerful industries, right? Yeah. That just hasn't realized its own potential.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Because you've had, just like any bureaucratic thing, really, you've had old men stuck in their ways running the show for so long in a certain way that doesn't allow for growth, right? Yep. It cuts off diversity and growth and all those things. And like, you have to maintain, like, the old Cowboys, one of the best things in the world. Problem with, like, the old Cowboys of the previous generations is they weren't open-minded to anything but the old Cowboy.
Exactly.
Right? Like, if they saw like a guy like a Compton Cowboys with the nose ring and the baggy pants, he's got the Converse on and all the jewelry and a cowboy hat, they're going to be like, he doesn't belong.
He doesn't belong here. Yeah.
He belongs here just as much as you do.
Yeah, but you and I see that as a potential fan.
It's a potential fan, and somebody like that has the ability to reach out and grab people like no one else
that we would never have the opportunity to get.
Yep. And that's kind of been a big issue that I've seen as an outsider doing this for over a year now. That's kind of been a thing where it's just guys like me. I'm wearing Hollister and athletic shorts. I'm not the normal cowboy. Yeah. I'm not the normal rodeo fan or anything like that. Yet I still enjoy rodeo because I've been exposed to it, I would say, from just working here.
Yeah, you've got to know the personalities.
Yes, and like you guys were saying earlier, where people need to be exposed to the personalities. Yep. And but the culture itself within rodeo needs to become more open to that. No doubt. No matter what they're wearing, no matter what their political affiliation or anything like that is, it's like, just, you got to be open to having these fans if you want your sport to grow so much.
Without question. I'm there. It seems like the good Lord has put some people in my life that have helped me become way more open-minded.
Yeah.
About other people that are not like me, and you know, we've had a swagger for good reason.
Yeah.
In our culture, and I hope it never goes away, and I hope people see that in me. But sometimes we've taken that maybe just a little too far, and we're a little better than everybody else. And but I think it's changing. I think we're doing that right here.
Well, I mean, there's some really cool people who are culturally impactful, like Dale Brisby is a great example.
Yeah,
that's a great example. Like, I think that guy's he's a goofy, silly, funny guy, but dude's transcended the sport.
Absolutely,
and has no gold buckle.
Yeah,
which is what's interesting.
Yeah,
he's transcended the sport. He's a cultural icon. And all he did was breathe life into something, make something interesting and funny and entertaining. That's all it took. Someone willing to be silly, goofy, outside the box, use a technique that tons of people have been using in other places, you know, a camera and minimal effort. Just, hey, I have this awesome personality. Let me blow this up. And now he's a cultural icon.
Yeah, he is.
Similar to Fallon Taylor. She did the same thing. You can't touch her.
Nope.
Rodeo could disappear. She ain't going nowhere.
That's right.
She's still going to have everything she's got. So she's transcended the sport. That's a guy, he's transcended the sport.
You should have seen me fumbling for my phone in Reno when she was on our tailgate show to get a picture with her.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a 52-year-old man with a cowboy hat and, you know, raised in this culture, and I can't wait to get a picture with Fallon. And I've known her since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get a picture with Fallon Taylor. That's the impact. That's what we need. That's where we're headed. Yeah.
We're there. We just need more of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and more platforms. Your guys' platform. The nice thing about this platform is it creates just an environment where you can talk about it all.
Yeah.
For a long period of time.
I love it.
And then what you find is, if you do something like for the right reasons, maybe like for me, there's zero monetary value I get from this. Zero. I've taken 0 pennies out of this. Everything we get from sponsors and deals and endorsements all just goes to keep it going.
Wow.
Getting people here. I take $0. Obviously, we have paid employees, but it all just goes back into it.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Make sure that we can keep doing it, because there's enough people out there who I think it makes a difference in their life, just like what you do. And so if it goes away, it'd be a tragedy, I think.
It would.
And
I'm a bit amazed.
We got to keep it going. And the same thing with what you're doing, just make it more grand, bigger, invite, grow. And not everybody can think like that. It takes a select few people, and you guys do that. And I don't know, it's impressive.
Well, we've got a good team. We've got a lot of young people. I got a kick out of Reno. I looked at our team, and it's basically a bunch of mid-20-year-old girls and me.
Yeah.
It made for a great picture.
Yeah. It's like a Hooters calendar, but cowboy.
Who's the old guy?
Yeah.
I call them Justin's Angels.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't get offended by that.
Good Lord. I don't think so.
I don't think so. They're all pretty good-spirited people.
Yeah, they won't last long around our crew if they get offended easy.
You do have to have thick skin.
Yep.
Not around here, though, huh, Ty? Everyone's protected. Everyone's got a safe space here.
They do now.
I got my office. I'm happy.
After Ty gets
not really a storage closet.
That's not your office. That's my office that I've never used.
I was gonna say no one has used it besides put equipment in it.
Yeah. Riley's the only one who utilizes an office. But so I know you got to get out of here soon to go to where you're going. I'm fine. Yeah. But I want to do a total 180 and a transition back to what we were talking about right before, or what I was trying to usher us into, because you had made a really interesting statement that you don't like the word pastor. And I think there's probably a lot more to all that than, you know.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about how I got into, I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say that I was a pastor, because I don't feel like I was.
Yeah.
So I did the PBR. I announced the PBRs for 7 years. And then Randy Bernard, and he led that crew that bought out their television rights in the early 2000s, and he hired me to do television, and I did for 10 years. So I was with him for 17 years.
Yeah.
And I worked with a producer named Joe Lavero for a lot of those years, and they fired him during the PBR finals and around 2010. And so I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And they hired this new producer that's still with them today to come in and take it over. And I was trying to get a meeting with him, and he wouldn't even look me in the eye, let alone a meeting for my new contract for the next year.
Right.
And every day he kept blowing me off, and I go, maybe I'm next, maybe I want to get it too. And then I would almost hear this voice go, you know what, you're supposed to start a cowboy church in your little town there in Lenapaw, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? Anyway, he would blow me off like 3 days in a row, and every day I would get that something inside of me was going, you're supposed to go in the ministry. And I'm like, I don't want to go in the ministry. And anyway, last day, sure enough, he lets me go. And I've been with the company for 17 years. I was the voice of the PBR. You know, I'm the one who made stars of those bulls back in the Little Yellow Jacket and Red Wolf days, and I created the stats for all of the riders and the bulls, and that was my life. And I'd let big rodeos go. I mean, it cost me Pendleton, and I mean big rodeos, and as the PBR grew, my rodeo announcement schedule got less and less, and so I called my wife and I said, I just got fired. She's like, what? And we had just doubled the size of our house. We just bought, I don't know, 160 acres across the road. Just, you know, just that year, we'd done a lot of stuff. And she's like, what are we going to do? And I said, man, I think we're supposed to start a cowboy church in our little town there in northeast Oklahoma. It's called Lenapaw, and there's about 400 people in there. And so she goes to church down at Nowata, where your sister lives.
Yep.
I was still gone, and after church, the pastor came up and said, hey, where's Justin? Well, he's in Las Vegas at the PBR finals. Why? And he said, well, I need to talk to him. Said, what about? He said, man, all this week I've been hearing something, my inner voice tell me to tell him that he needs to start a cowboy church in Lenapaw. She's like, he just told me that last night.
What the heck?
What? And so I get home. I'm going to meet him. There's another guy. It was the day after I got home. He's our county commissioner. He's a lay pastor. And he shows up on my doorstep. And I said, I answered the door and I said, hey, Dean, what are you doing? He said, man, I just had to come tell you something. And he said, man, I've been praying this week. And every time I pray, I think of you. And when I think of you, I just think I'm supposed to tell you to start a cowboy church in Lenapaw. I mean, this literally happened within, 48 hours. And so I said, gosh, I guess we better. So I sat down, and there was a 5-gallon bucket where I kept all my mail. And on the top of that bucket was a letter from the Lenapaw Historical Society inviting everybody to a country music jamboree at where the old school was in the gymnasium. They've since consolidated and built a new school out on the highway. But this gym, I'd seen him working on it. I told him, I said, is the renovation complete? And he said, yeah, and it's decorated Western and everything. I said, man, this is within hours. So my wife, Jeannie, and I, we go to this country music jamboree on that Saturday night, and I wait till everybody's gone, and there was an older couple. He was the mayor of our little town, and I waited till everybody was gone except them, and I said, can I talk to you? And I told them what had happened. They looked at each other, and that old man, he said, we've worked on this project for years and years. Our family has poured their heart and soul in. It is a beautiful old limestone gymnasium. Put a new roof on it, got government grants, of which I didn't know any of this was going on until I got there to that country music show and looked around. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And without even talking to his wife, he said, now I know why we've been working on this thing for the last 8 years. Here's the key. He said, you have your cowboy church in this gymnasium. He got cancer and died, and we took the building over. And started a church. I had them two guys. I said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even want to do this. And I did, and I did it for 6 years. And it was great because that's when I was going home to ranch anyway. I mean, the last few years I was with the PBR anyway. It was just more of a job, and I was doing it for the money because I just needed to buy just a little, few more cows, and a little bit more country. And so I said, okay, well, let's, it was more than a lightning bolt situation. I mean, I couldn't run. I couldn't back out. I had to do it. I had no choice, which was the only way I was going to get involved in the church.
Yeah.
But we did, and we grew. And my daughter was in high school, and we were high school rodeo, so I was home for all of that. And looking back, it all worked out very well. But I have a lot of issues with things in the church, because I knew I wasn't good enough to be a leader, let alone be called a pastor. Don't look to me for what to do. And so through the weeks and months and the entire 6 years, all I did was, okay, this is how I did a sermon. This is how I messed up this week, and this is how I'm going to try to change, but no promises. That's it.
What's more genuine and pure than that?
That's it, because I hadn't seen much genuine behavior in the church.
My goodness,
my whole life.
Have you? I mean, you just don't see much of it in any organized religious construct. You just don't.
And so, I was ate up with condemnation because the church had taught us over the years you had to get forgiveness, and you had to, beg for forgiveness all the time. I don't care if you're Protestant or Catholic. The whole principle is the same way. And I'm like, I'm not even smart enough to remember all the crummy stuff that I did and thought today.
Right.
To remember what to ask forgiveness for. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. I mean, did Jesus' blood cover all of my sins? And I still got to ask forgiveness?
Depends on if you're Catholic. Yeah.
Well, either way.
Yeah.
I mean, Protestants are the same way.
They
and then,
are,
did he take all of my punishment, but yet God is going to judge me when I get to heaven?
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
We're talking out of both sides of our mouth. So, I just, none of it ever really made total sense to me. And then I found out about the body, soul, and spirit. We're a three-part being. We live in a body. We have a soul, which is our mind, which holds our will and our emotions. But who every person really is a spirit. Body, we live in a body. We have a soul, which is our thinker and our emotions, and a spirit. That spirit, my body didn't get saved. My mind didn't get saved, or cleansed or forgiven. But my spirit was made pure and perfect at the cross 2,000 years ago. So after I was a pastor, and faked it for 6 years, I tried to do good, and I tried to help people out, and did a lot of funerals and weddings and hospital visits. I did the whole
did what
thing.
you thought you probably should do
exactly.
in that position,
But every week I'm going, are they going to find out who I really am? Because I was ate up with condemnation.
You had this whole imposter syndrome thing going on.
Oh, the whole imposter thing. Because I knew I wasn't good enough. And I think the church, Protestant or Catholic, has heaped this condemnation thing that you got to beg for forgiveness, But when I found out that I had a spirit that was forgiven one time, and that's what's going to live forever, and that's who I really am, and that spirit is a sanctified marriage union between Jesus and my spirit together, and that's my true identity. And it is perfect. My spirit is perfect. That's where grace comes in. I don't deserve it. I don't understand it. I did nothing to get it, but it's a free gift of grace. And when you hear the song, Amazing Grace, when you understand that it's my spirit that guy was talking about, not my mind, not my body, not my emotions, it's the spirit that lives in me, because God breathed His spirit into every man from the very beginning. And that spirit is purified, sanctified, and justified. And that's the true gospel, which is the good news.
Wait, what was that whole thing you were saying, that you weren't qualified? I don't know.
I wasn't. In the way I understood Christianity, because I make mistakes every day, as we all do. I read once that our mind calculates a thought every second.
Yeah, I think it's more than that.
Might be more than that. How many of those thoughts are selfish?
95%.
On 95, maybe 100% selfish. So what's the root of all sin? Selfishness. So in theory, everybody is sinning every second of every day. Yeah. We can't possibly ask for enough forgiveness. That's why it was given to us.
And I think that's the whole point, right? Yeah. So that's one of the issues I've always had with organized religion, is that you're diving into a book that is so aged, written by so many different people, and you're over fixating on certain aspects and then ignoring others that are way more valuable.
So we're over fixating on an old covenant that is past.
Correct.
And we're not focusing enough on a new covenant that is relevant and real and exciting and dangerous and awesome and gives you freedom. And people go, oh, you're just telling people they can go do what they want to do. Yeah, you can. And here's the best way to explain it. Chris Cox is a very good friend of mine. For those people who don't know who Chris Cox is, he's one of the greatest horsemen that's ever lived. And he can do things, he can communicate and get a horse to do things that most people can't. And I spent a lot of time with him over the last years. And I went to his clinic the other day. He had a team roping clinic. And so for the first time out of all these years, I connected with my horse. I mean, I really connected with my horse. Mm-hmm. That horse wanted to go everywhere I wanted to go. Without a lead rope, he'd follow me. He was willing to give me his life because I'd put pressure on and then I'd back off. And the whole thing I learned was he knew I trusted him. That horse knew I trusted him, and he was willing to give me everything. Well, now I know that God trusts me because my spirit was pure for what Jesus did, not me. I know God trusts me instead of waiting to hit me with a Jesus club or wait till you get to heaven, I'm going to judge you, or wait till you do this and I'm going to come down on you and I'm going to heap this on you. I know that he trusts me because my spirit is Jesus in me. It's Jesus and me together. So he trusts me. Now I'm like my horse. I want to do things out of pure passion in the right way, make good decisions, spend more time learning about him, helping people, communicating this good story. There's nothing you think I'm passionate about rodeo? Man, when my spirit man gets to jumping up and down on the inside of me because this is true and it's easy to explain and it's an amazing way to live, it's night and day. Without the condemnation and with the freedom to do right because he trusts me, I gravitate towards making better decisions, less selfish decisions out of my true identity instead of a list of rules.
100%.
It's easy.
Yeah, I mean, so
living is easy.
It literally goes parallel with what we're talking about with the Cowboy Channel.
Yes,
if you make it simple, then people will use it.
Exactly.
That's
with the app.
Yeah. Same idea, same concept.
Absolutely.
Most
correct.
things are actually. If you break them down into that simple of a term, you can attract far more people to it.
So I don't want to be classified as those guys that stand up there and say, "Hey, you need to live like I am. I'm doing this, 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 and this, and this is the way you need to do it." And that's what most pastors have been doing through the ages. And that's why I have a problem. I don't want to be thrown into that category at all.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So and that's why. But anyway,
yeah,
we learn and we grow.
That might be the number one answer I've gotten to that question, because I certainly ask that question a lot. So I like that. That's a really good way to put it, and I think that's another way you could attract young people to things.
Man,
making it simple like that, because I damn sure didn't want to go to church when I was a kid. In fact, I still don't want to go to church.
Let me tell you, you've got to get a book. And I want to encourage everybody to get this book. First of all, Andrew Farley is an amazing teacher with this principle that I'm talking about. And he wrote a book called Relaxing with God that radically changed my whole outlook and my ability to be who I really was created to be. Relaxing with God, Andrew Farley. Anything by Andrew Farley is amazing. And then I read a book called Why Men Hate Going to Church. I meant to bring you a copy because I appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
And you're trying to shed light on something that most people are too scared to talk about, because
people are way too scared to talk about religion. And that's why I've brought, 4 pastors on?
You brought Trey Johnson.
Yeah. Corey Ross, Jordan Weaver. Yeah.
And
I've asked them all the same question. And so far, Jordan might probably answer it the best, and he said one thing to me that I'll never forget, and I still talk to Jordan periodically, on social media and whatever. I think yesterday he had said something to me on social media, but it was something to the effect of never censor yourself for the people who are around you, and he was referring to me not censoring myself to him specifically, and I was like, everybody needs to do that.
Yeah,
because you get I'll get these messages and be like, you curse too much. Well, hold on.
You know what?
That's the way to communicate.
Yeah, exactly. That's our culture.
Those words didn't even exist when the Bible was written.
Man, and that's a big part of what I struggle with. And I want to be open because I know people are just like I was. Mm-hmm. I have a temper, especially around cattle. And I just want to be on record. I have a foul mouth when things go wrong. And I'm in the ministry. I've done this and that, but it's getting better. Mm-hmm. It's getting better. But at the same time, I'm realizing, you know what? God's not surprised by anything we do.
No,
he's not surprised, and he's not moved, and he doesn't go. He doesn't turn away and go, okay, that's it. I mean, you've crossed the line. Is that never? There's nothing we can do to lose His grace. Well, let me back up. There's nothing we can do to gain His grace, right? I mean, is there anything that I can do? Can I read the Bible enough? Can I pray long enough? Can I go to church enough to gain His grace?
No.
No.
And that's the whole concept. That's why the Orthodox way of doing things disappeared, right? That's why there's a New Testament, right? And no matter what you believe, I mean, there's a reason that we transitioned from Old Testament to New Testament, because there's this breaking point in the whole cycle. Yeah. However exactly that all went down back in those times, where it's like this old model, you're never gonna be able to sacrifice enough cattle. or sheep,
exactly,
or God forbid,
or time,
a child, or time. Like you're just not ever going to be able to sacrifice enough. Because think about the most terrible things you've ever done. We've all done some god awful things
in our mind, especially
in our mind, in every single way possible.
Yes,
right. Whether that be,
I've killed people in my mind.
You've killed people in your mind. You've done horrible, lustful things in your mind. You name the bullshit that you've done in your mind.
Yep.
You might as well have done it in real life, because that's one of the concepts in the Bible is like, if your mind even goes there, then you've already done it.
And I want to back up though and say this, that there are horrible consequences for putting those things into action. I mean, and God hates sin not just because he hates sin. He hates sin because what it does to his kids.
Yep.
Because the consequences are great. If you're going to be, I mean, if you want to abuse this principle, you can, but you're going to reap what you sow, and it's going to be horrible, and your life is going to be awful, and that's where sin.
Well, and it's important to mention there is a big difference between a fleeting thought.
Oh, and putting it into
action. Because there's a difference. Like and this concept's really prevalent in the Bible. Like you can't necessarily, because your brain works so fast, you can't necessarily stop certain thoughts.
I know.
You just can't.
You know what though? Trey Johnson can.
Yeah.
I really believe that he can. Corey Ross and Jordan Weaver and me, nah.
Yeah. Trey Johnson's a very unique individual.
I'll tell you something I've seen in Rob Smets. For those people who don't know who Rob Smets is, one of the greatest bullfighters of all time, one of the toughest humans. Frank Newsom, another bullfighter and a tough human. Those guys are amazingly gifted in being able to be tough and determined and hard-nosed. I mean, they quit drug addictions on their own.
Yeah.
By themselves. Who can do that except somebody that is so strong mentally? And, there's some people, Trey Johnson, that's my next step is, okay, I got to spend more time with Trey. I got to get, I got to get rid of the foul mouth and get rid of some of these things. And
he's got just this whole thing about him. It's a different kind of
totally disciplined. That's what I was going to say about all those guys. Hardcore discipline. And I'm not sure where I'm at. I think I can get there. I'm not sure I want to. I don't know if I'm.
Yeah, I'm certainly not. I'm not there. Yeah. I mean, I can think of, and I know some other people, like some professional, like, cause I've got friends in very different areas. Like I've got some friends who are like professional bodybuilders. Right. And it could be like a birthday or something like that. And then the cake comes out and they can just be like, no, thank you. Yeah. I don't have, that's impossible.
Right.
There's no way that my willpower can be broke down not to eat that like delicious 2-year-old's birthday cake and then come back and do it again and again until the cake's gone. Yeah. But there's certain people who can do that with, like, food's a good example.
Yeah.
Or what you're talking about, like these other things. Like some people are just built in that way. And we all have our gifts, right? That's not your gift. That's not my gift. One gift that you and I share is that we can speak and tell stories and do certain things. There's guys, Derek Begay, who can do things with a rope that I cannot do. Do
things out in the wide open country.
Yeah. There's Dustin Esquiza can throw a rope farther than anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Look at what Shad Mayfield can do. Look at what JB Mooney's doing unique. Right now. Everybody's got these unique talents that are wildly important. And some people's talent is discipline. And I'm jealous of that one. I am too. Anything.
Yeah, I am too. I've tried it and I failed, and I've tried it and I failed. But you know what? It's okay. God's not surprised, and I will say this. I've told many people this, that I have the biggest cowboy church in the world right now. Yeah. People that ask me, hey, do you miss the cowboy church? And I'm like, no. I didn't really start drinking heavy until I got in the ministry. True story.
That's a fact. You're not the only one. That's a common theme.
Oh, my gosh. But today, because I get to tell stories that are encouraging and inspiring about people that have gotten to a level that they couldn't have gotten to without getting knocked down time after time after time. But they picked themselves up, and they stood up, and they walked like Lazarus, like Jesus, like all of these biblical figures that we've grown up listening to. They got back up, they picked themselves up, and they got back on. And I tell these stories, even though they're rodeo people, they are stories of inspiration. And that's what it's all about. So am I a pastor today? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say today.
You're just preaching to the masses.
In that aspect, for sure. But I mentioned another book. It's Why Men Hate Going to Church. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share something with you. How's our time?
You tell me. We're on your schedule.
Yeah, I need to go here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we're good.
This book's called Why Men Hate Going to Church by David Murrow. And the system is failing. I mean, there are no men, with the exception of some cowboy churches, that are engaged in the Christian church in the United States today.
It's almost impossible.
Most of the women are doing the work. If you're not the pastor, the song leader, or the usher, the women are doing most. They're doing like 80% of the teaching today in the classes. Men are just racing out the doors of church every day by the tens of thousands. After World War II is when a lot of our churches in the United States were built. Men came home from World War II and they physically built the buildings that house the churches in the United States.
Yeah.
They physically built those buildings with their hands. And over the course of the 1950s and 60s, which people would consider the golden era of what Christianity should really look like, right? Those men were very engaged in church, but were they engaged in learning their true identity and understanding grace? And
not in those days. Yeah, that was frowned upon to do any of that. And then you have like the hippie movements and all those things, and it goes away from that. Yeah, where you kind of need to have a blend of all of that. And we actually have a lot of that from different people, right? You've got some big time figureheads who are so opposite of pastors and churches who are actually inviting people in. Like I don't know how much you know about Jordan Peterson. Maybe nothing, but I would encourage you to look into him. Yeah, he was a professor at Harvard. He's wrote several books, and he's one of the biggest cultural icons in the entire world at this point. His name's Jordan Peterson, and he went from being a total atheist, agnostic person to being this. He might be the most influential Christian-ish guy in the entire world right now, and he is far from a pastor, but I think he's spoke of religion in a way that invites more people in than anybody else, and he doesn't carry that title of pastor whatsoever. And one thing they talk about all the time is how unappealing the church is to young people.
Oh my God, the young people just have they cannot relate.
Why would you want to? Yep. Everything that they can relate to is on one of those.
So the men in the 50s and 60s were engaged. They were going to church in the United States, but they were there because they built the building with their hands.
Yeah,
that was their engagement. Think about this. The whole system is built on one man lecturing other men on how to live. No, we don't like being lectured to. The whole system has failed.
No one wants to be told what to do.
Exactly. And so they sat there, and then the next generation, they slowly started dropping off. But the reason they were there is because they physically did. Now, they built a building. The Cowboy Church movement has provided opportunities for people to work around a chuck wagon and cook meals on a campfire and to be involved in arena activities and things such as that. And but a lot of them, because it's so much easier to go back to the system of one guy doing the teaching, a lot of them have fallen back into the old routine. Let that guy do all the work, and we'll sit here and we'll punch our time card because that gains us favor with God in their mind. And you see people going to some churches that they've never learned anything, they've never enjoyed 1 minute of it, right and left. And it seems like the most boring church they can go to. I think people feel like they sacrificed the most because it was so painful.
Yeah, it's certainly worse than sacrificing part of your flock.
So there we go.
There we go. Well, sir, you've got a
my
job
story.
of your own.
I've made half the audience mad, but the other half is going, holy cow, I've been waiting my whole life to hear that.
Hey, if the thing I've always said is if one person, it helps them, then it's worth it. So
it's actually it's more like a 95% and 5% and I've told this story all over the country for the last couple of years. People come up to me and go, oh my gosh, I can play with those rules. I can get things done. I can be who God created me to be with this now. I've waited my whole life to hear this. This is possible.
A lot of people need the barriers removed so they can even figure out who, quote unquote, God wants them to be or they want to be. Sometimes it's the same. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's the opposite, but sometimes it's the same. Sometimes the person you want to be is exactly the person you're supposed to be based on, God or whatever thing you subscribe to.
Yep.
And more people just need to recognize that.
Exactly. Yeah, Jesus plus nothing is everything.
Yeah.
It's all that's it. You just need to believe in what he did. That's it. It all boils down to, do you believe what he did? He did or not?
Yeah. It's pretty simple.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah, either or. That's the easiest way to operate.
Your choice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you choose. So thanks for asking.
Yeah. Thanks for answering. And thanks for like the energy you brought into the room with all that. I mean, it shows passion, and I really enjoy that.
It's real, man. And it's really life-changing, and it's, you know, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because it's already been done. My spirit's perfect. My mind is slowly getting there. My body, well, it's over the hill anyway. Forget that.
Well, when you're only getting 3 hours of sleep, yeah, putting yourself in that position.
I do got to go to work now.
Yes, you do. Well, already, Justin, I'm glad you came by, and
yeah, keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. You do the same.
Thank you.
All right. This has been The Gauge, hosted by me, Chance Conrado, produced and edited by our guy, Ty Yeager. Shout out to the executive producers, Dustin Pointer and Cody Denton. Marketing and content produced by Riley Chone. Make sure to rate and review this podcast, as well as follow The Gauge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to The Gauge wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.